give people a chance to come in, and then we'll start. Okay. I'm gonna get started. So welcome everybody. This is our penultimate meeting for this academic year. The next one will be in 2 weeks. Today we have Dziuda, who is going to present to us Dangerous Liaison, dynamic theory of breakup. I just want to remind you that the 3rd of June, we have Suling Sardushau talking about public signal and private action, right-wing protest, and hate crimes against refugees. As usual, Viola will have approximately 50 minutes plus 10 minutes for questions, and reminder that this is recorded. With that said, Viola, please.
Thank you so much. So this is a project with Alvaro Delgado Vega, who is right now in Zurich, but he'll be joining me at Paris, and my colleague Will Howell. And this is really a project at very early stages, but I wanted to present it for 2 reasons. First of all, as you will see, the model is super simple, and I worry a little bit that we are just reinventing the wheel, so let us know if we are. And second of all, we have the basic results, and we are just now wondering which direction to go, so any suggestions would be helpful. Okay, let me try. Okay, do you see the slides moving? Okay, so a few years ago, there's this wave of scandals that hit the US mainly. And so as you see, the idea for the project started quite a while ago. Let me focus on the first picture here. So this is Clinton and Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was a very influential Hollywood producer, and he was accused of sexual misconduct that was going on for a long time. Hillary Clinton had a very close relationship with Harvey. He was one of her big donors. It's estimated he donated around $1.5 million to her, and he was also connecting her with other potential Hollywood donors. So when the scandal broke out, of course, there was a question in the media, did she know it? And if she did, what can we infer, or like, given that we don't know for a fact whether she knew about his misbehavior or not, what can we infer about her honesty and integrity? So that's a very simple question. And we just want to build a model that will allow us to answer it. So the model will be really a model about Hillary. She will be the main character. So the main question that we are going to ask is, if you are Hillary, when should you break up with a compromised partner? Suppose you learn that your partner is compromised, when should you break up? And the trade-off that we're going to explore is super simple. On the one hand, you have the benefits of the relationship. On the other hand, you have the reputational fallout from allowing the relationship to continue. Okay. So I'm happy to jump to the model. So there will be strategic agents and non-strategic agents in this story. The strategic agents are the strategic player. There are 2 strategic players, an agent and a principal. And for this talk, I'm going to call the agent a politician to keep things easier, and the principal a voter. So Hillary Clinton in this story would be the politician. There will be 2 non-strategic players who are the agent's partner and the media. The partner will have her private type. So with probability pi, she's compromised, and with probability 1 minus pi, she's not compromised. More importantly, the politician will also have a private type. With probability gamma, she's honest, and with probability 1 minus gamma, she's strategic. So gamma will be a parameter that will feature quite a bit in our analysis. That's the probability that the politician is honest. And the types are private information. So this is going to be an infinite horizon game. And at the beginning of the game, the nature decides whether the partner is compromised. That's decided once and for all. After that, if the partner is not compromised, then basically politicians have no actions to take. The relationship is ongoing forever. Nothing happens in the game. If the partner is compromised, then in each period when the relationship is ongoing, the following timing takes place. So first, the politician learns with probability P that her partner is compromised. So every period that the relationship was going, there's some probability P, which is the same every period, that the politician learns for a fact that her partner is compromised. If she doesn't, we don't allow her to do anything. But if she does, then the honest type immediately breaks up the relationship. That's by assumption. And the strategic type decides whether to break up. After that, media reveal the scandal with probability Q. So media are non-strategic. If the partner is compromised, every period there's probability Q that the scandal is revealed. After that, the voter observes politicians and media's moves. So she knows whether the politician broke up the relationship or not, and whether there was a scandal or not. The voter then updates beliefs about politicians' type. So we are not modeling voters' behavior here in any way. In the background, there are some decisions that the voters make, and those decisions depend on their beliefs, but we are just going to directly work with the beliefs. So we just assume that they update beliefs about politicians' type. And after a breakup or a scandal, so either when the politician breaks up the relationship or the media reveal a scandal, no further actions are taken. So the game continues, and the voter holds the beliefs that she formed at the moment when a scandal breaks out or there's a breakup, but no further actions are taken. Okay, so finally, what are the payoffs? So the politician receives two sources of payoffs. In each period that the relationship lasts, she receives X that's greater than 0. So that's donations or the relationship that the partner creates for her. So this stands for that. And then she also receives her reputation. So he receives payoffs from the voters' belief that she is honest. And here we are making a super simple assumption. It's completely additive, and it's linear in X and linear in the voters' belief. Voters only form correct beliefs. That's their entire role in this paper. We make a simplifying assumption that the voter does not update her prior belief until there's a scandal or a breakup. Here I should have a breakup. Ardal, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was
You
just
should jump in. I might not notice because I'm looking at different screen.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just wondering, so there are no false scandals in this model. It's like
No.
the media is learning if and only if this person is corrupt.
Yes.
Okay.
So there are also no false breakups.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we could allow for false breakups and nothing could change in our model, but there are no false scandals. That's important. Okay, so the simplifying assumption is that the voter does not update her prior until there's either a breakup or a scandal. So you can think about this assumption a few ways. You can think about voters who are inattentive. They are not even thinking about the relationship that Clinton has with Weinstein until either there's a scandal or until media reports that she actually broke up this relationship. Alternatively, you can think that this is a good approximation of a completely rational model when the prior probability that the partner is corrupt is very low. Because if the prior probability that the partner is corrupt is very low, there's not much, the voters are not expecting any scandals or any breakups, so they're not really updating a lot throughout the game. So basically all the strategic forces that I'm going to talk about are still in the game. But if you're still worried about this, we will talk about this at the end of the talk. Okay, so that's the model. Do you have any other questions about the model?
I don't know if this is the right question or time to ask it, but the reputation here is just the belief. You didn't, presumably this is for simplification because ideally you would, there would be a payoff from having a relationship long because of reputation or relationship with other partners because of reputation and things like that.
You mean the payoff from the relationship should be somehow, weighted by reputation?
So the reputation so in sort of normal models of reputation, there is no payoff from reputation. There's a payoff from something that happens, good happens because of reputation. So that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so here, so what's different is that, usually there's a payoff from reputation. This payoff comes from the other strategic player in the game. Here it comes from voters who, I could add some probability that the voter will vote for Clinton is a function of her reputation. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so some notation before we jump to the analysis. So I'm going to use a phrase. I'm going to say that the politician is informed in T if she receives information before or at time T. So as soon as you receive information, as soon as politician receives information, she's considered informed. I'm going to use alpha for voters' belief if the politician breaks up in T, and mu T for voters' belief if a scandal is revealed by the media in period T without any previous breakup. Yeah, so if the relationship is ongoing and suddenly there's a scandal, voters update their beliefs, and that's denoted by mu T. And finally, RT, and I'm going to be reminding you about what this notation is the probability that the strategic politician breaks up in period T, conditional on reaching T and being informed by T. Okay. And throughout the analysis, I'm only going to talk about the strategic politicians. I'm going to say just politician, but I'm all the time talking about the strategic politician. Okay, so let's jump to the analysis. So the first finding is that the politician will work with the corrupt partner. And this is not a very surprising finding, but just for housekeeping, it's useful to have it. So there exists no equilibrium in which the probability that the informed politician breaks up in a particular period is 1. Okay. So there will be always some probability that even if the politician is informed, she continues the relationship. And the intuition here is just standard intuition from models of reputation. If it were the case that everyone expects a strategic politician to break up with probability 1 if she's informed, then both the strategic and the honest politician break up with the same probability. So breaking up does not benefit reputationally. Actually, there's a caveat that actually the strategic type might break up with higher probability than the honest type, because she might have already accumulated some information over time. But it doesn't matter. So think about both of them behaving the same way in period T. So breaking up does not benefit the strategic type reputationally. So then the benefits of relationship dominate, and the strategic type prefers to continue the relationship.
Viola, I'm sorry, I missed something. So RT is the probability of breaking up conditional on learning and no scandal?
Conditional on knowing. Okay, so RT is the probability that the strategic politician breaks up, conditional on reaching time T. So that means there were no scandals and no earlier breakup. Because remember, if there's a scandal or a breakup, no one ever moves again. There are no moves in the game.
Oh, if there's a scandal, okay, okay. That's what I missed. Okay.
Because everything is, both the breakup and the scandal are for informative. So after that, even if I allow them to make take any choices, that wouldn't affect.
Okay, thank you.
And the crucial thing is that this is the probability that the strategic politician breaks up in T, conditional on reaching T and being informed. So what I was saying here is, given that the honest politician breaks up in T, breaks up with probability 1, every period there's probability P that she learns and breaks up. While for the strategic politician, she might learn over time, not do anything, and then she reaches a period in which she breaks up with probability 1. Then from the point of view of the voter, the probability that the person who broke up is strategic is actually going up. So in the worst case, this is going up, and in the best case, there's no change in her reputation. So in this putative equilibrium, she would not want to break up. She would want to continue the relationship. So in all equilibria, we're going to have RT smaller than 1. Okay, so what are the dynamic considerations in this game beyond the fact that we are not going to be breaking up with probability 1? Well, so on each period t, the politician says, okay, if I break up, I'm going to get a belief alpha t. It's determined endogenously, but in a particular equilibrium, I know what it is. And I'm going to get it forever. Because basically the game, the strategic game ends, but everyone lives forever, so my reputation lives with me forever. On the other hand, if I don't break up, what happens? With probability Q, the media is going to reveal a scandal just right after, just right after I decided not to break up. And then the game also basically ends for me, and forever I have this reputation mu t. With probability 1 minus Q, the media doesn't reveal anything. I collect my payoff X. I collect my reputation gamma, okay, because voters just think, you know, they hold, by assumption, they hold their prior about me. So I collect my reputation gamma. And then I have some continuation value. Now, what's the continuation value in this game? Well, either I'm planning to break up tomorrow with some probability, in which case tomorrow I'm going to get alpha t plus 1 forever. Or I'm planning not to break up tomorrow, so RT plus 1 is 0, in which case it must be that the continuation value is higher than 1 over 1 minus delta. Why is that? Well, if I decide not to break up tomorrow, then breaking up tomorrow would make me appear honest with probability 1. So I could definitely tomorrow make sure that I get reputation 1 forever. So if I decide in equilibrium that I'm not breaking up in t plus 1, it must be that the continuation value is higher than 1 over 1 minus delta. Okay, so what does the politician do? She compares the payoff from breaking up from the payoff of not breaking up and makes the appropriate decision. So that brings us to the first lemma, which says that basically fragile relationships remain fragile. What does it mean? If in some period t, the politician breaks up with positive probability, then she breaks up with positive probability the next period. So once the breakups start, they will continue. The probability of breakup will be always positive. So what's the intuition for that? Let me try to walk through that. So suppose that this is not true. So suppose that in some period t, the politician breaks up with positive probability, but plans not to break up in the next period. So what does it mean? Given that she breaks up with positive probability in period t, her payoff from breaking up in t must be weakly higher than her payoff from not breaking up. So on the left-hand side, you have here the payoff now normalized, both sides are multiplied by 1 minus delta. So on the left-hand side, you have the payoff from breaking up at t, just a reputation from breaking up at t. And on the right-hand side, you have the continuation payoff from not breaking up. So the media reveals some probability, I collect some goodies with some probability, and there's a continuation value. Now, if this is true, then notice that left-hand side is actually smaller than 1, because I can never have higher reputation than 1. So the right-hand side has to be smaller than 1. Okay? So, okay, now, this should, I think there's a mistake here. Why is the mistake? No, sorry, there's no mistake. Okay, so this is what we have. Now, the second thing I want you to realize is that actually the value function, per period has to be higher than 1. Why is that? By supposition, I'm supposed not to break up tomorrow in t plus 1. If I don't break up tomorrow in t plus 1, I established before, it must be that I'm getting higher payoffs than just a reputation from being perceived as honest for sure. So this we know that this has to be greater than 1. So that means that the first expression has to be smaller than 1 because left-hand side is smaller than 1. Actually, it has to be, yeah, okay, smaller than 1. So now let's think about the incentives in period t+1. In period t+1, the equilibrium tells me that the politician does not sever the relationship. So if she happened to sever, she would get payoff of 1 forever. But she's not supposed to sever, so this payoff of 1 has to be smaller than the right-hand side, which is just the continuation payoff if she doesn't sever. But I can say that this first expression is smaller than 1. And how do I know that? Well, in the equation above, in the inequality above, this entire expression was smaller than 1. And now I have exactly the same expression, just mu is shifted 1 more period. And, you know, it takes very little to show that mu t+1 has to be smaller than mu t, because there was no scandal. If there's a scandal at time t, and we move to another period, and there's a scandal at time t+1, this scandal is more damaging to me because the relationship has lasted longer. I am supposed to be revealing those scandals. I'm supposed to be breaking up if I'm the honest type. I didn't break up. So definitely the voters will update negatively. So this entire expression now is smaller than 1, which, if this inequality is supposed to hold, tells me that 1 minus delta Vt plus 1, that tells me that this other expression in the last inequality is strictly greater than 1. Otherwise, the inequality doesn't hold. So that implies that the valuation continuation value from period t+2 has to be higher than from t+1, has to be than 1. And here I'm doing a little bit of hand waving, but it's sort of not feasible. It cannot be the case that I'm always getting a payoff higher than 1, because the highest payoff I can get is either my reputation, which is at most 1, or the payoff from this relationship. But I already showed that this payoff from the relationship has to be smaller than 1. So there's just no way to satisfy this equation. And intuitively, I think it is intuitive. So if I decide that early in the relationship I should be breaking up because I worry about my reputation, if I don't, then I should worry about my reputation later on because it's only going to get worse. Questions? Okay. So this together with the previous lemma basically leads us to the following proposition. In equilibrium, there exists a unique K. It could be anything between 0 and infinity, such that the politician does not break up for all t smaller or equal to k. So RT is equal to 0 for all t smaller and equal to k. And breaks up with some interior probability for all future periods. Okay. So it's a really nice structure of the equilibrium. There is a grace period of k periods, where I'm letting this relationship continue and hoping there will be no scandal. But even if there's a scandal, it's not extremely damaging to me. And only after a while, because the scandals start getting more and more damaging because the relationship is longer, I start breaking up. But I always break up only with interior probability. So with some probability, I always carry this relationship with me into the future.
Can I ask you here?
Yeah.
Do you have examples in which k is actually greater than 0?
Yes. So I'm going to show you a comparative statics on k, and it's easy to see. So for example, you know, if you look at these equations, if x is very large, k will be infinity, because I don't care about reputation at all. And if x is very small, k will be 0. Now we cannot pin down, so far we weren't able to pin down uniquely k as a function of parameters, but we can show that we can show always the upper bar for k for any set of parameters, and we can show that it has to be unique k. We identify a set of k's, and then we say that we know it has to be unique, but we don't know exactly which one it is. And the intuition for uniqueness is also, I think, there. So, you know, there's this underlying force that reputation upon media scandal drops over time. The longer the relationship, the more damaging a scandal is for me. So initially I'm collecting the goodies from the relationship, because I know that if a scandal occurs, people will say, hey, she might have not known about this. She just worked with him for a short period of time. So I'm hoping, I'm willing to take a risk of a scandal, but after a while this becomes too damaging for me, and I start breaking up. But because I start breaking up, now the reputation from actually a breakup and a scandal is not so bad, because it's no longer that it's only the honest type that breaks up. Okay, so so I said the equilibrium.
Can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
Just so here, it's perfect information. So the voter knows for how long exactly the relationship has been going on, right?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of that making that less evident? You know, because if I think about the motivating example, very often with these scandals, oh, I learned that Weinstein and Clinton were linked, but I know for how long, and then you can overestimate that, underestimate that, and that will vary at the cost of your reputation, right?
Yeah, so definitely, if the voters will never know how long the relationship was, they have some flat prior, then you either always break up or you never break up, I guess, with the same probability. Every period is the same. We have an extension of this model. I'm going to talk about this later, where the voter knows when the breakup occurred, so she also knows the length of the relationship, but she only learns that when the scandal occurs. So here the story would be that I actually had no idea that Hillary was connected to Weinstein, but the moment the scandal broke out, there were multiple articles saying that she was connected to him, and they were actually stating exactly when more or less when the relationship started. So I think that is not such a bad assumption, but I think the assumption that we have here is that as soon as Clinton breaks up, everyone knows about it. And that's a little bit questionable. I think it's true for some scandals, it's not true for others. And I'll talk a little bit about what would happen if we change the assumption.
Sorry, one more question. So would the politician and the partner try to control the media so that it mutually continues to be beneficial for them? But in some sense, it becomes more risky for the politician.
Sorry, can you repeat?
So would it be possible for the partner and for the politician to come down together on an arrangement where the payoffs go up, like the transfer from partner to politician, to control the media, so that the media story doesn't go out and the partner says, I'll pay you more, but as a politician, control the media?
So definitely it's in the, so here the partner is unmodeled, but any reasonable assumption about the partner's payoffs would definitely make it beneficial for both of them to shut down the media. I would rephrase your question a little bit, maybe. What would happen in this model if the media are still exogenous, but they can actually share X? Yeah. So if you think this is an interesting question, I'll note it down. We haven't done this. We looked a little bit at this, but I don't remember what the results were there. Yeah. But I think, yeah, might be interesting. Okay. So what I told you is that there's a unique K, so there's a unique grace period, but the strategies of the politician conditional on being informed at T could be, there are many of them. So for example, if take period T and take a politician who is informed, this politician could have been informed in period T, or maybe she was informed in T minus 1 or in T minus 2. And in principle, you could condition her strategy on when she was informed. So I can't uniquely pin down, how long you're waiting from the moment you learn until you reveal. But one simplest equilibrium to construct would be, for example, if I learn before K+1, I never break up. And if I learn at any T after K+1, I break up exactly at the moment at which I learn with probability RT. And then I never break up thereafter. That could be one equilibrium. But you could also construct an equilibrium in which I learn and then I wait a few periods and then I break up with some probability. So we have a lot of flexibility here, unfortunately, and maybe it would be interesting to sort of think about what could we add to the model that would actually allow us to pin down this equilibrium strategy, because I think it could be interesting to learn about this. Okay, so what's the comparative state? So we, as I said, I cannot give you a formula for K, but we can do comparative statics on K. Here the comparative statics is reasonably intuitive. This grace period weakly increases in benefits from the relationship. That makes sense. Increases in prior reputation. That also makes sense, because in case the media reveal a scandal before I sever the before I break up the relationship, I'm starting with very high reputation, so voters are not going to update very strongly on me. This great period decreases in mediability. That's also intuitive. Now I'm much more worried about the scandal. And finally, it decreases in patience. And this comparative statics comes from the fact that when I get a reputation, when there's a scandal or a breakup, I get this reputation forever. So if I'm very patient, I care more about this reputation than the benefits of the relationship that I'm accruing while the relationship lasts, because eventually it's going to break up. So the more patient I am, the quicker I start breaking up. Okay, so then you can say, okay, can you tell me anything about the evolution of this breakup? So I told you that for the first K periods, nothing happens, and then there's some breakup. But how does this breakup evolve over time? So we weren't able so far to characterize much here. We have some formulas, but I can't interpret them in a nice way. But we can show that as the relationship goes to infinity, RT goes to 0. Okay, so if you think about this equilibrium that I just outlined to you, that I only reveal when I learn, if my relationship lasted for a long time and now I learned that my partner has been corrupt all along, I still reveal this, I break up this relationship with some probability, but this probability becomes very, very small. And the intuition here, I guess, is because, you know, it's very, from the voter's point of view, it's very unlikely I didn't know. If I knew and I were honest, I would have broken up before. I didn't, so I'm not going to really be very eager to break up now. But I still have to break up with some probability, because if I weren't breaking up with any probability, then I could really get great reputation. I could say, hey, I'm breaking up so late. Obviously, I must be the honest type. So this RT has to balance these two concerns.
Sorry, can you repeat again what K equals infinity mean and vis-a-vis those results?
Yes. So
and when does it happen?
So K equal to infinity would mean that I never break up. Okay, so that would happen if X was very large. Yeah, if my benefits from the relationship are very large, I don't care whether I have reputation. If I'm fixed delta, I don't care whether I get reputation 0 forever or 1 forever, because 1 over 1 minus delta is smaller than X, that I might benefit from reputation. In that case, obviously, I never break up.
So this proposition that we can see right now should be conditions on something. So it can't be just in all cases the limit is 0.
In all cases, the limit is 0 is in the case where, and for that we can give conditions. In the case for the equilibrium, in which case infinity, we can give you conditions for that. And in that case, it's just not on. The limit is trivial because RT is always 0. Okay. Okay, so what do we know about this this evolution of a breakup? So take any equilibrium with K greater than 1. So any equilibrium with at least 1 period of grace period. Then the incidence of breakups by the strategic politician is non-monotone in the length of the relationship. Yeah, because we have 0 probability until K plus 1, and then there's some jump. And then we don't know exactly how this evolves over time, but we know that in the long run, it's going to go back to 0. So we are still working on like trying to get a better characterization of that, but intuitively what happens is that you should expect the highest incidence of breakups in the middle of the relationship in some sense. And what middle of the relationship means depends on these parameters of the model. Okay, so finally, I can tell you something about the evolution of beliefs. Some of these results are super intuitive, I think, and some are a little bit, more surprising, although you can give intuitions for them. So the first result is that for in any period, the alpha t is greater than gamma is greater than mu t. So in any period, the benefit from breaking up is higher than my prior reputation, and the reputation upon a scandal is lower than gamma. So actually, the fact that the reputation upon the scandal is lower than gamma is just mechanical. This is not coming from the equilibrium. The fact that alpha t is greater than gamma is a result of the model. But it's also intuitive because otherwise I would never sever this relationship if I prefer to. Well, I mean, it's not maybe such a clear intuition, but intuitively, if I can get more by just coasting, I would not want to sever the relationship ever. What we can say is also that the reputation upon a scandal goes down over time. Okay, and that's true obviously for the grace period, but it's also true for the periods where there's some breakups. And the reputation from a breakup also goes down over time. What happens in the limit? In the limit, the reputation from a scandal goes down to 0. Okay, so eventually, if a voter observes a scandal, the relationship lasted for a long time, she will update that she's facing the strategic type. And that comes from the fact that eventually, if the type were honest, let me just rewind. If the voter sees a scandal, she knows that the partner is corrupt. So she knows that every period the politician was had probability P of learning about this corruption. So long time in the future, the politician must know with probably almost 1. And if this politician is honest, she revealed her information immediately. So it's very unlikely that an honest partner survived until so late. But, and this was the more surprising part, the limit of alpha t does not go to 0. It goes to this expression. So what's the intuition for that? Well, the intuition for that is that, as I said, in the very late in the relationship, the voter just expects that she's facing only the strategic type. Once she learns that there was corruption, she expects that she's only facing the strategic type. But the strategic type, if she immediately assumed that she's facing the strategic type, then the strategic type could reveal a scandal and say, hey, I'm honest, I just learned, I don't know what happened, I just learned. And the voter would have to believe her. And that would create incentives for actually revealing scandals very late. So in equilibrium, those forces have to be balanced out by the strategy of the politician. And because she reveals scandals with such a low probability towards the end of the relationship, when she reveals a scandal, she's still believed to be honest with high probability. Okay, so we thought this was a nice finding that, when I say, hey, this person that I've been working on forever, turns out that they are corrupt, and I'm severing the relationship now, actually, I don't suffer so much from that. And finally, we can do a comparative statics on this limit belief, because that tells you also something about, what's the reputation over time, like how high it is. And here, I think most of the comparative statics is also relatively intuitive, but not as straightforward as before. So if X goes up, if X goes up, so my benefits from cooperation go up, alpha upper bar goes up. So that might seem surprising a little bit. my benefits from working with my partner go up. And anyway, even the limit, I come out and I say I'm breaking up with this partner, my reputation is higher. And I think the best intuition here comes just from the end of the game, that if the benefits are higher, then I have less incentives to actually break up and to restore all the indifferences in this equilibrium. I just have to get a higher reputational payoff. My reputation at the end of the relationship also increases in gamma, so that seems more intuitive, because gamma is my prior reputation. It decreases in patience. So if I am very patient, actually towards the end of the relationship, I have low reputation. And I don't think I have a great intuition for that yet. And finally, my reputation at the end also decreases in Q. Also, I don't have a great intuition for that, so we're still working on that. And finally, one thing that we found interesting is that my reputation towards the end of the relationship doesn't really depend on P, which is the probability that I'm learning, so the speed of learning. And here, I guess we also don't have a very good intuition, but our intuition was that if you, eventually in the limit, you have learned, no matter what P is, you have learned almost for sure. So P stops mattering in the limit. Okay, so that's
Can I ask
basically
here, if
sure.
you have time?
Yes, I think I do.
I was thinking about some sort of that could be called a welfare analysis here, right? So your comparative statics is on K, which is just, doesn't tell us the expected length, for example, of the relationship, things like that. Do you have any results on, for example, the expected length of the relationship?
No.
Okay.
But that's a good question, and we're going to look at this. Yes, because there are two forces. On the one hand, if you change a parameter, K becomes longer, let's say, but on the other hand, this parameter might affect the speed with which you reveal, and also, yeah. Okay, so no, we don't have a. Thank you.
And a related question is, what could be an interesting sort of overall measure of the quality of that kind of relationship and the probability of breakup? So I'm thinking, I'm asking because I'm not sure if K is really that informative to me. It's something that comes out as a feature of an equilibrium, which is unique, which is nice, and therefore you can do. But I don't have any way to interpret high K versus low K in a way. That's my problem a little bit. So something that is more meaningful would be good. And yeah.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. Okay, so just
there's a question in the chat. So Stefan, Lamy, I don't know if you want to ask the question or well, I can ask it. So the question is
yeah, sorry. Is there any risk of social desirability bias here of the politician?
Valeria, can you repeat it? I couldn't hear it.
Is there any risk of social desirability bias that can affect the equilibrium on the medium and the long term? You try to be nice with the population, with the voters, but on the medium term, you discover that it's not your intention, and it is more likely to.
I don't think we can hear Stefan. It's just too far away. The question was, is there a bias here linked to social desirability, and that can affect equilibrium in the medium and the long term?
Social desirability? Like, I'm not sure.
Actually, your co-author asked the same questions. What do you mean by social desirability? So
we can conjecture here. Probably means something like the welfare analysis that Max was mentioning, which is that you might want to take into account that maybe this relationship is particularly negative or is particularly positive for the voters as well as the politician. That's the best guess I can make here, but I don't know.
So I think those are good suggestions that we should look a little bit at welfare. Like one could think that maybe the relationship itself is positive for the society. You know, the fact that Harvard got all this money from Epstein is probably not too bad, but we would like to have some. We would like to learn about this misbehavior earlier, no? So we could build this into the utility function. I guess we would also have to think maybe a little bit more about open up the black box of the voter, because the beliefs of the voter presumably lead her to take some action, and the more precise those beliefs are, the better this action. So these points are very well taken. We'll look a little bit about whether we can think about this in a reasonable way and get any results on welfare. Okay, so
there is, I think Stefan explained actually what he means by social desirability in the chat. So maybe we can answer now his question.
Can you read it? Sorry, I don't see the chat.
Yeah, so social desirability is a tendency for people to present themselves in a generally favorable fashion, particularly within the field of self-report assessment of personality and attitudes. The topic of social desirability has been and remains the source of long-standing and sometimes acrimonious argument. So, well, I guess the strategic type, of course, is looking for trying to hide his type behind his actions. No, he's trying to look like the positive type of the honest type. No, so I guess it's a case of social desirability or seeking for social desirability. No, I mean,
yeah. So in the politician example, it's easy to say, oh, she cares about reputation because she wants to be elected. But more generally, yes, you can think you just want to be perceived as an honest type. So then that could be just interpreted as a social desirability utility. Okay, so a few loose ends and conclusions. So Valeria asked a little bit about what if voters didn't know how long the relationship lasted. So we looked at an extension when the breakup date is observed only after a scandal. So I have no idea even that she's maybe in this relationship. I have no idea what she's doing with Weinstein. And then suddenly there's a scandal, and only then I learn that actually she's still in this relationship, or maybe I learned that she was in this relationship only in the in the year until the year 2000, and after that she somehow moved away from that. So what we can show is that basically the results survive this extension. It's like the incentives are still the same, the strategic incentives are still the same. It's just when I'm deciding to break up, I know that the benefit of me breaking up early is going to start accruing only later on when the scandal breaks up. So here, maybe some of the comparative statics will change, but like the nature of the equilibrium with this grace period is going to stay the same. And in that setting, actually, our results survive. We can solve this model with fully rational voters. So right now, we assume that the voters are just sitting there and holding this belief gamma, and only once there's a scandal or a breakup, they say, oh, I should have been, thinking about whether my politician is honest or strategic. But you can envision a situation in which I'm sitting there and I see Clinton. Let's not talk about Clinton, but let's talk about Trump maybe, because I think that's the better example. I see this person working with Trump, and I have this prior that Trump is corrupt. And when I see that this person is not breaking up with Trump, I start updating on this person already. Initially, I update negatively. I'm like, well, they are probably not honest. And then I start updating positively. So in our current model, this creates additional strange incentives, because now maybe if someone is perceived to be corrupt from the beginning, you have a lot of incentives to break up at the beginning. But if you somehow survive the relationship, survive for a while, voters will say, hey, so maybe Trump is not so corrupt after all. So the incentives become much more complex. And so far, we haven't made much progress on that in the model I presented to you. But we can show that in this other model where voters only observe a breakup when there's a scandal, this updating doesn't matter. It all cancels out and all the results survive. Okay. So I think that's it. So what are the main takeaways? So unlike Max, I actually like this. Okay, so that's one of our main takeaways, that the relationships have grace periods, and we can say something about how long they last. Breakups are most likely for medium length relationship. And now the medium length is defined, as a function of parameters, but they don't happen in the beginning with high probability, and they don't happen at the end with high probability. And the reputation from a breakup decreases over time, but never to zero. So even if you break up a relationship at the end of your life, you still are not perceived as a non-honest politician. And but the reputation from a scandal decreases to zero. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Viola. There is actually a new question in the chat by Arda, who is, I guess, leaving. So I guess I'm going to ask it for him. He says that an interesting extension would be to allow voters to learn their relationship history. For example, what if a voter could learn that the politician learned that the partner is corrupt at t equal to 3? So you see exactly when the politician first learned of a corruption.
Okay.
I guess that's more of a comment than a question, but can I ask another thing? And again, I'm probably complicating the model again. I can see how the model is kind of sparse in some assumptions because you need to be able to make it tractable. But I was wondering, I mean, to me, one of the interesting questions here is the endogeneity of choosing this person, the person that you interact with. So here, in your model, you are assuming that the politician themselves doesn't know whether the person is corrupt or not. I believe in most cases that's not true. They do know. And the trade-off is perhaps between choosing to make friends with somebody who's very corrupt, who maybe brings a lot of benefits, and choosing to make friends with somebody who's less corrupt, but so that they, in a way, your X and your Q are related, right? I don't know if you guys have thought about that. I guess this would make it into a signaling model as well, because there would be, it wouldn't be a signaling model necessarily, but you might have that some politician types are more inclined to make the trade-off in one way and others in another way. So that would introduce types. So that would complicate it quite a bit. But to me, that would be an interesting question because, coming from the UK, watching the Prince Andrew scandal, clearly this is somebody who made a choice to hang out with somebody who's quite dangerous, and the benefits must have been quite large because there's evidence that he continued to hang out with this guy quite a bit even after the first scandals about Epstein came out, right? So which fits your model. He didn't immediately, cancel all his relationships and so on. So I guess the X was large, but I think it's interesting that maybe different politician types might make the trade-off in a different way.
So I think this is super interesting, especially the last part, as you said, that maybe from observing, a scandal or a breakup, I make some inference about X. In my model, X, everyone knows X, but I can make inference about that. So maybe thinking a little bit about the voter being uncertain about this X, that might be interesting. Another thing is related to I think it was Arda, or it was Aparaf's question, maybe Aparaf's question. What if I actually have transfers between those two? So you might have this interesting trade-off, but I don't know whether it's obvious. Maybe it's too obvious, and that's why we shouldn't go there. That if I have if I'm working with someone who is more corrupt, I can get more out of them because I can say, hey, if you give me more, I'm going to not break up with you earlier. And if I break up with you, it's damaging to you because everyone learns that I broke up with you. So there, the trade-off might even go in favor of choosing more corrupt partners.
I have one more thought here, linking it to real world. So what if a scandal breaks out, but then you're waiting for the court to give a decision on whether the person is acquitted or not? So during that time, do you temporarily break up or not? And maybe if you do, and the person is cleared from the court eventually, then do you want to engage still with that partner or not, which has a history, but the court said no, and things like that.
I mean, I think that's a fascinating question for a different paper, because you have a lot of examples where actually, I mean, recent examples, no, like where you say, oh, obviously no one will ever work with them, and then like a few years later they come back to politics or media, and you know, this Me Too scandals, I think, are very good examples of that. So I think that's a good question for some model, yeah.
I think I have also, if we go back to sort of evidence, I never know whether this is fair or not when you ask questions to theorists, but so something here that strikes me is that most of the examples involve a scandal. So they're the media scandal. So what are the examples of breakups that are public before the scandal breaks up? Like none of them, I can't find an evident one.
Okay, so so we have to do that. So far we just focus on the scandals, but you know, I think in the Epstein story we can find characters who were Jeffrey Epstein, who were working with him until the very end, and I think like Harvard was one of them. But there were characters who say, yes, you found out that I was going with him on this yacht and so on, but that was like last time happened in 2000, and after that nothing happened. So I'm pretty sure we can find examples of that. I think the only thing is that those breakups are usually not very publicized. They're only publicized once the scandal comes out. Yeah, so which would point in the direction that maybe we should, as our main model, we should present the model that I mentioned here, where we just assume that the relationship, you know, I don't know about the breakup until there's a scandal, and then the media just bring everything up.
Because then otherwise, if the breakups are public information, then I suppose the interesting component there is when you have multiple politicians, right? So there are people competing. I break up a scandal by breaking up with somebody, and that affects other politicians as well. That could also,
so
you
in
add
our
like the media yourself.
So in our current model, you have this, you would have this feature where we added another politician, that from the point of view of one politician, the other politician is increasing probability that there will be a scandal. So you will have this I think then we are opening a kind of worms, in the sense that it's not obvious how to model things, because all these other politicians actually from the same, like they are cooperating, and they both care about high reputation. In that case, there could be some collusion on their part, or if they are from opposite parties, then probably they would like to reveal even earlier because they want to undercut the other politician. So I think then we would have to think a little bit more. But I think you are right. Most of the time, we just don't hear about those breakups. We have to think about this more, Alvaro. It's just later on, once we have a scandal, we read all these articles and we learn about what happened.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Since we're 1 minute away from the end of the formal part, I'm tempted to stop the recording now, because otherwise we ask another question, we're gonna go ahead for 5 minutes.